Welcome back to the show, Katy.
Thanks for having me back.
Congratulations on your book, doing really well. It is honestly one of the craziest stories. You're not lying when you say front row seat to the craziest campaign in American history. This is a book about your journey, and it really is like a weird romantic story with no romance. Involving yourself and now President Donald Trump.
That's the weirdest way anyone's ever described the book.
I try my best.
I've heard a lot of descriptions, and that is by far the weirdest way.
It really is, though. When I read the story, and I don't know if you felt it, it almost felt like there was this strange connection between yourself and Donald Trump. Did you feel that during the campaign?
Well, listen, I was there from the very beginning. Donald Trump, I don't know if you guys remember this, but was not taken seriously when he announced his candidacy.
Oh, we remember. We remember.
Donald Trump is running for president. It's going to be so hilarious.
Right.
Those were what the headlines were like. People were calling him a carnival barker, a sideshow, and the like. And I was there almost from day one, from June 30th of 2015. I was the only national news correspondent that was following him full time, the only person really taking his campaign seriously. So he would see me for months on end as the only familiar face in a crowd full of strangers for months and months and months and months. And he would call me out over and over and over again. He would berate me from the stage when he didn't like my reporting, which was often. He would try to charm me behind the scenes, or if I did something that he liked, or if I said something that he liked. One time he kissed me on the cheek.
That story, I feel like you say now, and it's like he kissed me on the cheek, but it wasn't like a welcome kiss on the cheek. When you read the story in the book, it really is a harrowing moment that, for me, reminded me of the Access Hollywood tape, right? You see that tape where Donald Trump gets off the bus after pussy grab, and then he goes, just before he gets off the bus, he goes, I'm gonna put in some Tic Tacs, because you never know if you're gonna kiss her. Sometimes I kiss the women, I can't control it. And you tell the story in a similar fashion, like he just kissed you out of nowhere.
This was many, 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 many months before that. This was November of 2015, and I was on the Morning Joe set. There was a remote show that we were doing from New Hampshire. I was talking about Donald Trump's change in tone from the debate the previous night. He wasn't going after people that in the same way that he had been the previous week, not the same amount of vitriol. And I get off stage, and I'm waiting for Trump and his team to arrive. He walks in the side door, sees me immediately, and walks right up to me, puts his arms on my shoulders, and kisses me on the cheek. If you kiss me on the cheek, Trevor, that's fine. That's nice. We're essentially colleagues, and I'm a guest on your show. You're not covering me as a journalist. I'm not running for president.
You're telling me this now. I wasted an opportunity, but okay. I went in with a hug, but okay. Now you tell me. Thanks, Katy.
It's inappropriate in that setting. It's not a social situation. It is not I'm not a member of his family. I'm not his friend. I'm not somebody that he works with. I'm covering a presidential campaign. And I remember in that moment, the first thing I felt was, nobody is going to take me seriously if anybody sees that.
Wow.
Luckily, the cameras weren't rolling. But a minute later, Donald Trump is on set with Joe and Mika, saying, what happened to Katy? She was so great, I just had to kiss her.
Yeah, he bragged about it.
On national television.
Yeah, he bragged about it immediately afterwards. And it feels like that was in many ways the story. There was the story of Donald Trump on the campaign. But what I genuinely loved about this book is that you were taking us through the personal journey of somebody who in many ways was having the same experience or a similar one to Donald Trump. It was parallel. Yeah. Because you never covered politics before this, right? Donald Trump was never in politics. I would argue he might not even be now, right? And you were both on this journey together. Do you think in some ways he related to you? Was there like a connection between him and yourself where he was like, oh, Katy, you and I were on this journey together?
Well, we're both political neophytes. We were both outsiders. I was based in London. I came back just to say hello to my bosses, and I got thrown on this campaign. I didn't understand politics. You could argue that Donald Trump didn't really understand politics either, although he did win, so maybe he understood it better than any of us did. And I felt like that helped me because I could assess his support in a genuine way without all the, the baggage of being a Washington insider. And I mean that in a good way. People in Washington know their stuff. They're great reporters. They understand the dynamics of Washington. They did not understand Trump because he broke all the rules. So I came into it, not knowing any of the political terminology. Neither did Donald Trump, and it allowed me to, I think, honestly see why he was resonating and try to convey that. I kept telling people, I was like that bad Simpsons meme, old man yells at cloud, every morning in our editorial meeting, because I would get on the phone and I would say, guys, I know that the Access Hollywood tape is a big deal. I know it's especially a big deal in Washington. It's a big deal in New York. But people on the campaign trail do not care. They don't hear it. They don't care. They don't care about Russia. They don't care about the controversy. They like him, and they're not listening to any of the reporting that we're doing on him.
It's interesting that you say people don't hear it, because they were hearing it, but they weren't almost feeling it. They weren't listening to it. There's a stat that you have in the book that was really eye-opening to me in talking about the evening broadcasts, like the national news, and how Donald Trump got way more coverage than Hillary Clinton, but only 32 minutes was about policy. Yeah. I think in previous election years, it was something like 114 minutes and then like 200 minutes on policy, whereas with Donald Trump, it was only 32 minutes. Do you think that journalists could have done a better job of keeping it on policy, or was Trump the first person who was willing to risk scandalizing the entire election, and getting it away from that conversation?
Donald Trump had no policy. There wasn't policy to cover with him. It was very limited.
Right.
I mean, he had a Muslim ban proposal, but it didn't, and he had a tax plan, a pseudo tax plan, but he didn't really get into policy on the campaign trail. And whenever he did, he would immediately bury it with another controversy, or getting into some sort of personal fight with Ted Cruz or Hillary Clinton or Marco Rubio or Ben Carson or the Pope or the podium in the Oval Office. I mean, the list goes on and on. So would I have liked to have covered more policy? Absolutely. But he was making it really difficult to do so. I wanted to talk and put Donald Trump's supporters on TV every night and NBC Nightly News, but the man just kept saying things that we could not ignore. He's fighting with the family of a Gold Star family. You can't ignore that. He's calling on Russia to hack into Hillary Clinton's email. You can't ignore that. It was one after the other after the other. Looking back, though, and really, analyzing how we covered this campaign, I think it's a discussion that we have to figure out how in the world we're going to cover 2020, especially if Donald Trump is the Republican candidate.
Before I let you go, you did say in the book that you would like to cover him running for president again, which he's already started somehow. But looking at what you learned from the first campaign, is there something that you would do differently? Is there something, whereas Katy, you would go, okay, that's a mistake I made, or that's a trick that he used that I can now work on using against him? How would you cover Donald Trump, the man who still has no policy?
I'm not somebody who's trying to do anything against him. That's not my job. I'm not out there to convince any of you how to vote. If I were, I would hope that you just wouldn't trust anything I said. Our job, and my job as a reporter, is to just contextualize the person and to fact check them when they need to be, and to dive into not only their support but their policy. If I do cover him again, if he does run again, these are all very big ifs. I would like to make sure from the outset we cut through the noise. We don't get distracted by every little tweet. We don't fall into that trap where it's just Donald Trump trying to, I guess, go on the attack as opposed to trying to suss out exactly what he will do in his second term. Then again, I mean, I think the way we covered 2016 really did show how he would behave as president. It's not somebody who cares much about policy. He doesn't get into healthcare ever whenever he is trying to talk about it. He knows the very broad strokes. He just wants to get something done, and I think that was very apparent on the campaign trail.
This book is one of the most insightful. It's an amazing journey that you took on the road with Donald Trump, the most romantic, unromantic book I've ever read. Thank you so much for being on the show again. I really appreciate it. Katy anchors MSNBC Live, weekdays at 2 p.m. Unbelievable is available now. Katy Tur, everybody.